Cutback for Vasilev, and Lukic! A banger of a strike for Jovan Lukic's first MLS goal!
It's fallen now to Westfield! Oh, wow! He's nearly taken the roof of the net off! Philadelphia pounce again!
Who gets his goal in his Union debut? The record signing, off and running in his first appearance for the club.
Hello and welcome to the Free Kick Podcast. My name is Todd. And no, it is not the result that Union fans would have been looking for, but at the end of the day, it didn't really matter for placement for the Philadelphia Union, as they had already locked up first place in the Supporters Shield standings with their 1-0 win over New York City 2 weeks ago, which, man, time flies. We're already 2 weeks removed from that Supporters Shield win against New York City. Now we are heading into playoffs. Philadelphia Union fall last night 2-0 to Charlotte FC, and it's a game that really started off brightly. It could have been the dream start for the Philadelphia Union for Alejandro Bedoya in particular, who potentially made his final MLS regular season start for the Philadelphia Union. More on that in a little bit. But this is a jam-packed show, so I don't want to get too far ahead in the intro. But joining me, as always, is José Nuñez. José, how are you doing?
I'm doing okay, Todd. Thank you for having me. More awake and more focused. I've spent the weekend with family out in Chambersburg, past Harrisburg, and it was lovely. It's exactly what we needed. We took the whole family, so all four of us went. Olive stayed with a dog sitter, which was great. But man, what a weird match, and what a weird way to end the season, right? It feels like an unbelievable amount of highs, and suddenly, you sort of have a come to earth moment here with this loss that was always going to be difficult to try to sneak away with a point. Never mind all three. So much to talk about, something, or I guess a game that in reality wasn't really going to do anything for Philadelphia except maybe build momentum. So yeah, just intrigued to hear what you feel about it, since we haven't really talked about the game. We've talked about everything else but the game in the last 24 hours.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a game that Union fans, I feel like, at least reading stuff online, feel pretty indifferent about. It's a game, yeah, obviously the Union coming into this game were building momentum, 3-game winning streak, and obviously that gets snapped with this loss to Charlotte. And yeah, I do wonder. I do believe the Union went for it. I mean, the lineup would tell you that, and I know you and I will get into that here in a little bit, Jose, because I think you and I have a little bit of a differing opinion on the lineup. One thing I would mention is we've only seen the Union go on a 2-game losing streak twice this season. And so this is only a 1-game losing streak. And now the playoffs are a whole new beast. You play the best of 3 and everything. But, if history is anything to go by, usually after the Union lose a game, or at worst 2, which never happens, they go on a pretty big undefeated streak, sometimes a big winning streak. And so if history is anything to go by, this could potentially be exactly what the Philadelphia Union want. You get that loss, and now you just go on this big undefeated streak, and we'll see if that's exactly what the Union do here come playoff time. But like I said, it's a jam-packed show for Jose and I tonight. A whole bunch of news topics since we last talked to you guys 2 weeks ago, and then we'll obviously get into our thoughts on the game. But without further ado, let's get straight into the news. All right, so the first bit of news that I do want to talk about, Jose, is the U20 World Cup. We don't spend too much time talking about this, as we all know the U.S. got eliminated to Morocco by a score of 3-1. But this is relevant for Union fans. This is relevant in the Union fandom because Frankie Westfield's performance, and I would argue a very, very strong U20 performance. And for people who maybe didn't know who Frankie Westfield was, he definitely put himself out there on the biggest stage, finishing the U20 World Cup, making 4 appearances, all 4 starts, playing 360 minutes, 1 goal, 1 assist. And if you're Frankie Westfield, I mean, you and I have talked about this so much, Jose. We've written about this. I mean, what a last year and a half that this 19-year-old has had. moments away from going to Penn State, signs a Union 2 contract, impresses so much in Union 2, gets into the best of 11. A big part of why Union 2 went to the MLS Next Pro Cup against North Texas last year. Gets a homegrown deal that you reported back forever ago. Injuries to Olivier Bazo and Nathan Harriel in preseason means that, hey, it's time for the next man up, and that's Frankie Westfield. Impresses so much in preseason in Spain. Gets a start against Orlando City in his very first MLS start. Gets an assist against Orlando City. And he's not looked back since then. Now he's been a staple in this U20 squad and goes out at the biggest stage at the youth level and absolutely balls out, I think is the correct term to use for this. But yeah, Frankie Westfield did himself no disservice for how well he played with the U.S. at the U20 World Cup down in Chile.
Yeah, you sort of encapsulated so well there in that little stretch. Literally, as I understand it, 48 hours, 2 days away from shipping off to Penn State to be a college ball player. Instead, goes about it with the Union 2 to follow his development, or I guess expand his development, and just sort of took the job by the throat, right? And hasn't let go since. What's also interesting is that his international start with the U.S. was just as an injury reserve replacement, like just an injury replacement that had the opportunity to go down to Chile and what was it, like, I guess October camp 2024 or so. And again, impressed enough that the opportunities kept on coming and the guy just never, ever let go. So to hear Carnell speak about him so highly, to certainly have had you, myself, other of our friends also speak about him so well, and how great he's done this season is, I think, a testament of how good he is. And this U20 World Cup's playing against France, and even the match against Morocco, which I guess the team as a whole wasn't great, despite how good of an opponent it was. He had moments where he was, extremely bright, even in a loss. So I do wonder what this means for him, right? He's under contract, has a homegrown deal. He will be here for how long? Who knows? But certainly has his pen. The pen was to paper. So just an incredible story. So congratulations to him. Ultimately didn't achieve the goal that he wanted, and certainly the team and the country wanted, but nonetheless, as you mentioned, did not do himself any disservice by the way he performed. So congratulations to him and welcome back. Now it's the business end of the season. Yeah,
and you do feel a little bit bad for him that he got to miss out on the Supporters' Shield celebrations, but he had said, I believe, to Kyle and Jillian Omni of the One Team We Agree on, that Alejandro Bedoya sent him a nice message after the game and just thanked him for being a big part of this season. And so, yeah, even though Frankie, I'm sure, and he talked about it, it's a big honor whenever you get to represent your country. He realizes how big of a moment that was, but to still feel like you're a part of the team celebrating the Supporters' Shield, even though you're not there. I mean, that just talks about just how close knit this team is. And congrats to Frankie Westfield for having a fantastic season. Like you said, it's not over yet. And yeah, I mean, for a player like Alejandro Bedoya, which I would expect nothing less, a club captain, a club legend of the Philadelphia Union, to send him an encouraging message and thanking him for how vital he had been. I'm sure that meant a lot to Frankie. And you had mentioned he is a homegrown deal, and I'm looking at that right now. His contract's through 2028 with an option for 2029. And yeah, we'll see, right? Frankie, I mean, did he play himself into potentially getting a new contract already? Maybe, but I would imagine that first homegrown deal is quite friendly for the Philadelphia Union, and they may not want to mess with that too much. But speaking of positivity and more call-ups at the international level for the Union, or we should say the Union organization, that is Jamir Johnson, Cavan Sullivan, Kellan LeBlanc, and Jordan Griffin have all been selected to represent the United States at the U17 World Cup in Qatar. All four of those players have been vital in the success we've seen this season with Union 2, who have defeated FC Cincinnati today by a score of 2-1. Stas Korzeniowski scoring 2 goals for Union 2. And you and I, Jose, were joking about that a little bit before we went on the air, saying, he's sort of filling into that Chris Donovan role that we saw a couple seasons ago when he just can't stop scoring. And he played so well for Union 2, gets a first team deal, Chris Donovan, that is. Now, does that happen this offseason with Stas Korzeniowski? We shall see. I mean, again, I don't want to get too far ahead because there is a playoffs to still be played for the Union, but we do know that the winter shall be pretty big for the Union. A lot of contracts coming up. Will there be potential trades? Will there be potential sales? We shall see. And I look at, a player like Bruno Damiani, who I would imagine that Stas plays pretty similar to, both very vital in the air, both can hold up the ball. Not saying that Stas is the same as Bruno Damiani, but would the Union feel comfortable having that same type of player on the first team roster next season? We shall see. But regardless, these 4 players, Jamir, Cavan, Kellan, and Jordan, vital pieces for Union 2 and are going off with U17s in a couple weeks, if I'm correct, right, Jose?
I believe so. I must admit having been away from the soccer world over the weekend, I think that this coincides with certainly some of the playoffs that Union 2 are going through. And as you mentioned, congratulations to them. Congratulations to Stas for scoring a brace on his playoff debut. And I guess this is maybe this is an interesting conversation, Todd, because think about how many players the Union have drafted, but they didn't really have a place for them. Now with Union 2 being sort of a part of the equation, part of the organization, this is sort of like the perfect landing spot to try out some of these guys and not feel like you have to give them a first team deal like they have had to in the past. So obviously the Union don't have to worry about that for, I guess now two more years since they traded away all of those picks to Colorado and more on Colorado later, I'm sure. But yeah, these 4 guys leading out of all the selections for the U17 World Cup, Philadelphia led with 4 players being called up. So again, I think I've stressed it enough on my end. I'm sure you've said it too, Todd, in your content, but I don't think that it's hyperbole or hyperbolic to say that the Union have over the last certainly 5 years, maybe a little bit more than that, as they've gotten this academy off the ground and certainly producing players, the Union have been instrumental in developing U.S. soccer over the past 5, 6, 7 years with the amount of players that have come and gone to different camps and ultimately different competitions of some substance. So congratulations to them. Congratulations to the Union. And hopefully they have all 4 have as good of a tournament as Frankie did with the U20s.
Absolutely. I'm looking at it here on the Union's website. So the U17 World Cup will take place in Qatar from November 3rd through the 27th. The U.S.'s first game is November 5th. Their second game is November 8th. And then the third game is on November 11th. So, yeah, that will unfortunately get in the way of playoffs. Both Union 2 and Philadelphia Union, like we had mentioned, all 4 players have been vital for Union 2 this season. But similarly to the first team, we've seen many players step up for Union 2 this season, and that's a credit to Ryan Richter, just getting every single player to buy in, to believe in one another, knowing, okay, look, when there's an opportunity arises, go out there, take the most advantage of that opportunity. And so I'm sure that will continue. And sticking with Union 2, before we move on to more first team business, that is Neil Pierre named MLS Next Pro Defender of the Year, which is a brand new award this season. It's never been created until this year. And Neil's been a vital player for the Union, and it's nice to see him get recognition. He got selected into the best 11 this season for MLS Next Pro as well. But yeah, we've seen Neil step up and score some vital goals this season for Union 2. He's made 20 appearances, 20 starts, 4 goals, and 1,652 minutes. He's also helped contribute to 4 clean sheets in his appearances for Union 2 and 19 clearances. And yeah, I mean, there's a guy last season, Jose, you had done so well just getting as much video out on Neil Pierre and stressing just how vital he would be for the Union if they could get a homegrown deal done. We know that he had training stints over in Germany with Borussia Mönchengladbach, and the Union do eventually sign him to a homegrown deal. And yeah, there had been moments this season where fans had wanted to see Neil come on and play a little bit more than he did. He did eventually make his debut in that 7-0 defeat to Vancouver. It feels like a couple weeks ago, but truth be told, it's about a month ago now. And I think that just speaks volumes to Bradley Carnell. He's not going to go out and hand out debuts. I think he said, as candy, it's earned. And in a game when you're getting slaughtered that much, yeah, what better time to give you MLS experience than away on turf in Vancouver? And yeah, I mean, an unbelievable season that Neil's had this season with Union 2. It's going to continue in the playoffs now that Union 2 have defeated FC Cincinnati 2-1 today. But yeah, Neil Pierre, well-deserved, I would say, right, Jose?
Absolutely, well-deserved, where I'm sort of certainly not confused, and that's not the right term, but a little torn is that I wish he would not have been given this award, because I wish he would have been playing more MLS time than all of the minutes that he has with Union 2. And you know, everybody develops differently. I just know that the ceiling on this kid, whatever you want to call it, is just unbelievable. And I mentioned it on social media to somebody when the award was announced, which I find it weird that they're still creating awards for this league. Like, how is this not an award that was already set from like year one, right? It seems like such an easy one to sort of say, okay, this is the 5 things that we're focusing on. I could have sworn that this was going to be the year that Neil was going to break into the first team, right? In terms of maybe being a substitute for Owethu, or Owethu gets in trouble with yellow cards or a red card, and he comes in for a match here and there, the way that maybe Andrew Rick did once Oliver started sort of stumbling last year in his development and his play. But that obviously never happened, and ultimately he goes ahead and plays as much as he did with the Union 2. So a big year for the Pierre brothers, come to think of it, with Nelson scoring his first MLS goal with Vancouver, as well as at one point being the leading scorer in MLS Next Pro, and now his brother Neil with Philadelphia earning this accolade and just having a great season, and certainly continuing to be sort of one of the top prospects within the organization. Though, at what point do you drop the prospect part if they have a first team deal?
That's a good question. It's got to be a games limit, I would imagine. Once you play a certain amount of games in MLS, I feel like you should no longer be considered a prospect, which I think maybe coincides with the players that are on. I don't know how closely you pay attention to the top 100 prospects in MLB, Jose, but you have some guys on that top 100 list that have played multiple MLB games, and I'm like, how can they be considered a top prospect when they've played over 50 MLB games? But I don't know. Maybe MLS should take a page out of MLB's book and follow what they do for their top prospects and everything. Where, okay, you play a certain amount of games and then you're off that list, because it's like, by the time you get that many at bats and everything, you're no longer considered a prospect, or you shouldn't be, because now you have the MLB experience. Not as much as I would say most players on that roster, but yeah, I mean, you have a significant amount of roster experience if you're playing weekly, multiple games. So I don't know. I think it's a good question. There should probably be a game limit. And once you hit that, then yeah, you get the prospect tag taken off of you. But yeah, regardless, I mean, congrats to Neil Pierre for earning this. And also big congrats to Quinn Sullivan, Oluwetu Makanya, Frankie Westfield. Again, I guess this goes to your points. How long can you say prospects? I think certainly you and I wouldn't say Quinn Sullivan's a prospect. Makanya, I don't think is a prospect anymore. Frankie Westfield's not a prospect anymore either. I believe those two guys have played more than enough games this season. But when you look at the first game against Orlando City, yeah, absolutely, Makanya and Westfield, I think, would be considered prospects. But when they've played over 20 games each this season and have been vital pieces to that back line, to a stout Philadelphia Union defense, yeah, they shouldn't be considered prospects anymore. But yeah, happy to see all 3 of these guys get listed in MLS's 22 under 22 list. Quinn Sullivan at 6, Makanya at 13, Frankie Westfield at 18. And one name that's missing from there is Cavan Sullivan, which I saw he was around like 24, 25, I think, just missed the cut. But yeah, the people who had a vote in this list, they did right. They did right, not going off of potential, going off of what you actually did for me. And maybe you can make the argument that maybe Frankie Westfield should have been higher than 18. Maybe Macania should have been higher than 13. But regardless, to see the Union get three representatives on this list, the most out of any MLS team, a huge honor for the organization and these three players as well.
Massive. And it's great to see, right? I mean, some of these names are just incredible. Obed Vargas, Alex Freeman, Toklamati, I'm intrigued about, because if I recall correctly, Frankie Westfield shut the hell down out of that guy in the playoffs last year of MLS Next Pro. So that was interesting. I mean, there's some serious ballers. To see Quinn Sullivan right next to David Martinez from LAFC, he's a baller with Venezuela too. Luca Bombino. So I don't, maybe this is, a covering the Union bias of mine, but, I think Old Waythrough could be climbing up a little bit. I think Quinn's in the right spot, but certainly Frankie needing to be a lot higher in my opinion. But then again, I personally didn't get a vote, and that's okay. I'm not asking for one. I am just very, very happy that they made it, and intrigued to see who sort of surfaces next year into this list. Likely some repeats for sure from Philadelphia.
You would imagine the Union get representation in this list next season, and I was looking at this, and it took me a little bit to find the list, since 2010 is when MLS started the under 22. Back then in 2010 through 2028, it was the 24 under 24, and then they switched it in 2018 and it became the 22 under 22. But for Union fans that may not be aware, and I am aware that a lot of people in this fandom are pretty new the last couple of years, and so some of these names that I go and roll off the top of my tongue, they might say who, but back in 2010, the Union had three representatives, with Roger Torres at 24, phenomenal player for the Union. Jack McInerney at 22, Danny Mwanga at number 5. 2011, you had Jack McInerney at 23, Roger Torres at 22, Danny Mwanga at 9. In 2022, you had Freddie Adu at 19, and then at 18, you had Shannon Williams. In 2013, you had at number 8, Amobi Akugu. Number 4, Jack McInerney. 2014, at 13, you had Amobi Akugo. 2016, you had at number 6, Keegan Rosenberry. 2018, this was a really good team. 22, Derek Jones. 21, Mark McKenzie. 10, Austin Trusty. Derek Jones was a very, very highly thought of prospect coming out of the academy. Didn't hit the height that pundits, local media people thought that he was going to hit, and I know he's been around MLS a little bit. Then 2019, you had 16, Mark McKenzie. 7, Brendan Aronson. 2020, you had Mark McKenzie at 3, Brendan Aronson at 1. 2021, Leon Flock at 15. 2022, Leon Flock at 14. 12, Paxton Aronson. 10, Jack McGlynn. 2023, Jack McGlynn at 7. And then last year, yes, we had Cavan Sullivan at 18, Quinn at 8, and then 3, Jack McGlynn. But yeah, the Union have done well since 2010, making the list of the players being listed, missing only 2 seasons. And so, like you had said, Jose, once this list is done next year, I would expect more Union representation on here. Will they have 3 again? Will they go back down to 1? Will they go to 2? We shall see. I would imagine Cavan Sullivan probably gets back on this list next year. I would imagine he plays more minutes for the Union. But yeah, I would be intrigued with more players. Would Neil Pierre crack on this list? Would CJ Olney crack on this list? We shall see. Did the Union go out in the offseason and sign a player that's under 22 and he cracks this list? We shall see. But yeah, I love when MLS does this, recognizes young talent, and to see the Union just be consistent year in, year out speaks highly of the organization.
Yeah, I do see this comment. Bruce sort of took it out of my brain. No Andrew Rick, which is, I think, totally fair considering, he's played I guess this season 14 appearances, 15 appearances off the top of my head. Certainly didn't crack 20, I don't think. Correct me if I'm wrong. But I think depending on what happens next year, right? What does the transition period looks like between Andre Blake and Andrew Rick? Maybe that's the way that he gets in. But I think someone like Chris Brady certainly deserved. The guy's kind of not a great team in Chicago, right? Barely sneaking into the playoffs, but nonetheless, a monster, especially having been part of that pretty good, not great Olympic team last year.
Yeah, and Chris Brady, the only goalkeeper on this list for the U22s under 22. He came in at number 11 on this list. And so, yeah, I mean, obviously you're going to see a lot of attacking players, but this list actually features a ton of defenders. I mean, Peter Miller, number 7, was also with the U.S. at the U20s. Would you say he's better than Frankie Westfield? I think there's a debate to be had there. Noah Allen with Miami at number 12, Makanya at number 13. Who else on this list?
Bombino was with the 20s, but I don't think he really even played.
Yeah, number 9. I completely missed that too. I mean, yeah. So I mean, so many defenders on this list, and glad to see defenders get recognized for how vital they've been to their teams. And yeah, the Union get 2 defenders on this list with Makanya and Frankie Westfield. But pretty much that's everything I have to say about the U22 under 22 list. Jose, anything else you want to add before we talk about the Charlotte game?
Probably a couple of those players will not be here next year, meaning the league, not Philadelphia wise, but like Obed Vargas. I have zero thinking that he'll honestly be in the league next year. Alex Freeman maybe won't be in the league next year. I think Doclamati will stick around. Owen Wolf will stick around. David Martinez, I could see a transfer out as well. He's just that good of a prospect, which again, is he even considered a prospect considering how good he's been this year for LAFC and obviously this type of recognition. So again, it's a fun exercise to sort of see who these names are. And, we get to watch as much as we can, but we can't watch everything. So it's nice to kind of get this collective, think tank of names and where they rank. We may not agree, but I appreciate that it's done.
Yeah. And you can go ahead and look at this list on, I believe I linked it on the freekick.substack.com when I wrote my article about this piece. You can look over the names from 2010 to current that have cracked this list and seen where these players have wound up going in their career. But yeah, I mean, a lot of great throwback names and a lot of players to go ahead and just see how well they've done in their career since they were once on this list. But we'll go ahead and switch topics to Charlotte versus Philadelphia Union last night. As we know, we had mentioned it, don't have to mention it too many more times, but the Union fall in that game 2-0. Wilfred Zaha scoring the 24th minute and then Kerwin Vargas in the 30th minute. I guess we'll get straight into it, right, Jose? I named the show episode this about Alejandro Bedoya possibly making his final regular season start for the Union. I say possibly because he is out of contract after this season, and so will the Union bring him back? I know he had spoken about how he really wants to win MLS Cup. We talked about this last episode, Jose. He said that if they can win MLS Cup, then he can just ride off until the sunset. That sounds like, yeah, Bedoya is really considering retiring. And so many players, I think, in professional sports, they want that perfect ending to their story. Go out a champion. And for a player like Alejandro Bedoya, a player that's given his all here in Philadelphia since 2016, what a better end to his career, his time here in Philadelphia, if he can go out an MLS Cup champion. But he is a two-time a two-time Supporter Shield. Don't give MLS credit for the Supporter Shield. It was started by the fans. The Supporter Shield champion twice, Alejandro Bedoya, 2020 and then this season, 2025. But I guess we can go ahead and transition that into in the starting lineup. You had Andre Blake, Nathan Harriel, Jacob Glesnes, Makanya, Kai Wagner, Denley John Jock, Jovan Lukic, Bedoya, Milan Olaski, Bruno Damiani, and Mikel Ua up top. Bedoya, the only change from the team sheet against New York City 2 weeks ago, coming in for Indiana Vasilev. But going back to Bedoya, Jose, if that was his final start for the Philadelphia Union, again, out of contract next season, told us in the locker room, he wants to ride off to the sunset if he can win MLS Cup. Sounds like he's considering retirement. Don't want to put words in his mouth, but That's what it sounds like to me. 24 appearances this season for the Union in MLS, 9 starts, 1 goal, 1 assist in 740 minutes this season. His performance last night against Charlotte.
Are you asking? Are you gonna do a? I thought you were gonna.
Yeah, you.
I thought you were gonna do the. I thought you were gonna do the soundbite. Not good. I was like, whoa, that's kind of harsh.
No. I think it was a good start. I think it really was a good start. 45 minutes for Bedoya. Has that chance in the 37th, 38th second of the game. Also has a chance in the 27th minute. I mean, it's crazy. Bedoya could have had 2 goals in the first half, and unfortunately, not able to put the ball in the back of the net on either one of those chances.
Yeah, that first one was a belter. That's for sure. I actually was sitting at a stadium bleacher watching while we were with family, and my cousin's kid was playing football, and I was in the stands watching soccer, which is kind of comical, just on my phone watching it. Listen, I think it was a perfectly fine performance for Bedoya. And to your point of, is this sort of the end for him? Is this meaning that the final regular season start? Correct me if I'm wrong, Todd, but last year at this point in the season, we had already talked or heard from Bedoya, I should say, multiple times about statistically how impactful he'd been, how good he's been with or how good the team has been while he's on the field versus when he's not. I guess that's called plus and minuses, right? In basketball, He was like really laying it on at this point last year. So it's interesting that sort of thing hasn't happened. And certainly, the comments that he made during the Supporter Shield celebrations, which is, I think, when we got those quotes, or someone got the quotes out of him, how, maybe I'm putting words in his mouth here, but he said something like, "I'm tired, man. I just want to win this and ride it to the sunset," or something along those lines.
Yeah, we played the soundbite last week. We played it last week. So go listen to the last week's episode, people, if you want to hear his comments.
Yeah, so I think this might have been it. I don't in terms of regular season performances, I think he would love to start every single match in the playoffs. Obviously, that's not likely to happen in terms of now, the matches count more than ever in this season. I guess US Open Cup as well. But yeah, I'm happy that he got that last start. I almost wish he would have played longer, to be completely honest with you, but I know that turf is difficult out in Charlotte. And I know a good friend of the show, Mark Kelkenberg, was there watching. And yeah, he could have had 2 goals and probably done a little more damage with an assist here and there. So perfectly fine start, but I'm eager to chat with you about the starting lineup, because I could have sworn there was going to be more rotation to it. And maybe I'm still thinking in the Jim Curtin life or the way of life of, 60 minutes is basically a whole match for some of these guys, right? When it comes to minutes and in terms of the toll on their bodies, where did Danley really need to play 78? Why didn't he come off at, the 55th, 60th minute, that type of thing? Why did Kai really even play that entire match? Why not bring in, Mbaizo and cobble together a lineup? So eager to hear your thoughts on it all. I think you're probably far happier with it than I am.
Yeah, I saw you commenting on people, and you might have put your own post out there saying that you had hoped for rotation. If you were the coach, you would have rotated the squad. Like we had said, Andre Blake in goal, Nathan Harriel, Jacob Glesnes, Makanya, Wagner started in the back line, Danley John Jock, Ivan Lukic as the 2 6s, Bedoya and Milan Iloski as the 2 10s, Bruno Damiani and Mikel Ua up top. And I think this was the right decision for Carnell. I think minus Bedoya, you put in Vasilev, who, by the way, I think had a really good game last night for the Union coming off the bench and for fans. And I don't think there is any question should Vasilev be starting, especially with Quinn Sullivan out for the season with an ACL injury. But you watch Vasilev come on at halftime, takes 3 shots on the night, 24 out of 27 passes completed, created 2 chances last night. We know what he brings defensively for the Union. Recovering balls, tackling, all that jazz. But he's a player that's just so smart, right? And attacking the space. And so many times on this podcast, I've complained about, he's too slow. He slows down the play and everything. He holds on to the ball too long. But he is a smart, clever player. He knows the spaces, the half spaces to attack and everything. He always seems to find himself in the right position at the right time. And I do think that was a smart substitution, bringing on Indy at halftime. He did bring new energy to this team, and we'll get into the second half performance compared to the first half. Not a difference, in my opinion, for the Union. But I just think with 2 weeks since the Union last played, with playoffs coming up, you've gotta start your strongest team as possible. I know the Union scrimmaged a little semi-scrimmage last week or 2 weeks ago, sorry, against Union 2, and it was a little bit makeshift lineup for both teams and everything, with players away on international duty, what have you. But yeah, this game doesn't really matter in terms of results for the Union, where they wind up in the table, but you want to just continue that rhythm. You want to build momentum. And I think that's exactly what you got. And you saw more positivity from the Union, more attacking opportunities in the second half than you did the first. And so because of that, I think this was good man management by Bradley Carnell, going with his best starting 11 minus Indiana Vasiljev. I do believe this will probably be the starting 11, the first game, whether it be against Chicago or Orlando City, for all those who are unaware. And the Union's first playoff game against either one of those teams will be next Sunday at 5:30 p.m., which we could even get into that. Jose, are you happy with the playoff game being on Sunday? I know we have a topic later on who we would rather see the Union face, Orlando City or Chicago, so maybe we save that for that. But yeah, I think for me, the biggest thing was getting your best 11 out there, getting them the minutes, and getting them back into a rhythm as the meaningful games of the playoff start here in a week.
I totally get that, but I think I also come with the camp of, Danley played a hell of a lot during the international break. Frankie Westfield was in the World Cup with the U20s, played an awful lot too, right? Out of the 5 possible matches, he played a full 4 against good competition too, in terms of Morocco and France, and just putting some extra minutes on those legs. I just don't know if turf is the right place to do something like this too, right? In a different world, and this is obviously hindsight being 2020, or what if isms here, but like Kai Wagner rolls his ankle on the turf or does something on the turf. How great do we feel, or how great do fans, I should say, feel about the playoff chances without Kai, right? I do want to ask you something, and I don't want to debate too long, if at all, anymore on the starting lineup, meaning the idea of starters versus maybe a more rotated one. You said something interesting just a minute ago. Do you firmly believe that Ua is the man to start over Baribo going into the first match of the playoff? Is that what I caught out of you?
Yeah, absolutely. I don't think it's any debate. It's been the last 4 games now that we've seen Bruno and Mikel up top. I firmly believe that those two have a better partnership than Ty Baribo and Mikel Ua. I felt bad for Mikel getting pulled at the half. I thought maybe he should have been given more minutes, but maybe, like you had said, Jose, maybe the turf plays into a factor. You give him 45 minutes, because it was so interesting last night. They were almost playing Mikel Ua as a left winger. He was playing pretty wide last night, where you leave Damiani inside the 18-yard box, where he is at his best, where he can win those headers, when he can hold up play with his physicality. And so there was a couple times when you would see the Union build good attacks down the left-hand side, and a lot of that was coming from Mikel Ua. Ua had the cutback pass that led to Alejandro Bedoya's second chance in the game. Damiani lets it go through his legs. It's a little dummy. And then it's a bad touch by Bedoya. It does eventually get the shot off. But that play starts with finding the ball out wide to Mikel Ua and playing that cutback pass. And so that's not something that you see the Union do or have done with Baribo and Damiani starting, because I've said it before, they make 2 similar runs. I think they're 2 similar players. And so you've got to have, if you're going to start one of those guys, it's either Baribo or Damiani. It's not both of them. And I know Baribo came in the second half, had multiple chances last night, but those chances weren't created because of Damiani. They were created because of Kai Wagner. Right. But how many times do you want to keep forcing Kai to send in crosses? You got to do something different. And so the Union did well playing out wide to Mikel Ua And I firmly believe that is the better striker pairing coming for the playoffs.
Right. And I think there's something to that, right? Ua being a substitute in has been so impactful here in this last stretch of matches leading into the playoffs. So I think there's some magic there. But I think maybe the Charlotte substitution had maybe something to do with the fact that he got that yellow card right before half, if I recall. And we can talk about second yellows that came up during this match and someone who's going to miss one because they imploded. But all in all, I think you also nailed it as we talk about the match here and transition to that. Definitely a game of two halves where, outside of that initial, 2-minute, 3-minute flurry that the Union had, it sort of felt like the rest of the first half was just really, really suspect defending, especially that first goal with Kai being caught up so high upfield and just one big, long lob ball was just the disaster that tumbled it all.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Where Kai, I think, was more involved in the second half, playing in crosses to Ty Baribo. Like I mentioned, you see Indiana Vasilov creating a couple chances for his teammates, really doing well to attack the half spaces. A much better performance for the Union. I had mentioned this in one of the many group chats that we're in, is the one thing you were noticing with Charlotte, and they do it so well in MLS, which is maybe a little bit scary come playoff time when you look if the Union can get past Chicago or Orlando, and I don't want to talk too much about that yet. You're going to face either New York City or Charlotte, both very good defensive teams. But as this game went on, the longer it went on, you're seeing that low block from Charlotte, and the Union were really struggling to break that down. And so you're seeing a lot of pointless shots outside the 18-yard box with Danley John-Jock, with Jovan Lukic. None of these opportunities are hitting the back of the net. The only chances that are really getting created are you had Cavan beating Ashley Westwood on a 1v1 dribble, finds Ty Baribo, unable to put the ball in the back of the net, and then a cross or two from Kai Wagner finding Ty Baribo. But come playoff time, you're going to see teams playing low blocks, especially when it comes to single elimination. You're going to see teams come into Subaru Park, bunker down, and then try to hit you on the counterattack. And so I was a little bit confused seeing Milan Olaski taken out of this game because I do think he is one of your better 1v1 players, breaking down those low blocks. Again, maybe the turf plays a little bit of a factor into that. I do want to play a clip here, though, on Bedoya, on Carnell, talking about Bedoya's performance and then the reason why he made the changes that he did. So this was Bradley Carnell talking about Bedoya's opportunities he had last night and then the changes he made at halftime.
Ali gets a chance very early on with a cutback, and normally he finishes those, after his cup of tea in the morning. So I think, it's just unfortunate. And on the turf, we know, and we had to distribute the minutes amongst everybody here today pretty much. And happy everybody got a run, happy everybody got minutes, just to stay sharp. Just got to make sure we're looking after our bodies. I know Jovan on the turf, it's never easy to cover the ground he does and feel something. Then we had to, with all the cautions, make sure that, we treat Danley in the right way, because if he gets a red card or a double yellow, then it's a suspension in the playoffs. The same thing with Nate. So we strategically had to then make shift a couple of things. So, I think with a second half performance like that, I was really proud of that, and it's good momentum going into the playoffs.
Now, to your point, Jose, why does Danley go 78 minutes when he's already on a yellow card? Because, yes, I think Jesus Bueno can come in and do a job, but the preferred partnership, and I think the fan base would say the same thing, is you would rather see Danley and Jovan out there as opposed to Jovan and Jesus Bueno. No offense to Jesus, but we know how vital that Danley and Jovan have been to this team this season. The Union are where they're at because of those two in the middle of the field. So why you allow him to go 78 minutes when he's already on a yellow card? That's a lot of trust and belief that Carnell has that he won't get sent off like Wilfred Zaha did, which we can get into that now. I mean, so dumb by Zaha to slap away Jesus Bueno's hand, and then he slaps him across the face. I don't know if he made that much contact. I do think Jesus Bueno sold it a little bit, but it was enough to get him a second yellow card. You knew exactly what the Union wanted to do. And Bradley Carnell even said, and we'll play it a little bit later, he believes Zaha should have been sent off earlier in this game. He does eventually get sent off, but 78 minutes for Danley to be out there on a yellow card. It's a lot of trust that Bradley had in him.
Yeah, and I think it's quite obvious that the the connection, mental connection, whatever it may be, whatever you want to call it, between Jovan, Danley, and Carnell is just so strong, right? I think they can kind of just look at each other, likely can just look at each other, and they know exactly what Carnell wants, right? And what the game plan's supposed to be and how to adjust, etc. So not much to add there. An unbelievable amount of trust solely based on that comment. That just unreal that he let him do that. Play 78 minutes on that yellow against a team like Charlotte that ultimately tempers flared, right? And then going into the Zaha thing. It's amazing. I posted the clip on social media, and sort of just so much talent, such an unbelievable talent in this league. For sure, one of the best players, one is they, but such an impulsive creature that just can get baited and just rages out like someone said something wrong about his mother by baiting him. Like it's an unbelievable turn of events there in such a meaningless game. 2-0, 90th minute, 91st minute. I can't remember. Is that when it was?
90th, yeah.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah, 90th minute. Just an unbelievable mistake. And what's comical to me about this whole thing, and it's not even the hit, it's more of people defending him about this situation, saying that it's part of his game, it's part of the person he is. And that all may be true. It absolutely adds an edge to him. It adds a sense of, what a hothead he is and what an X factor he is. That may be true, but it's also true that that moment, that action could have just costed Charlotte their very first playoff game in this season, this postseason, and potentially their way to advance. They lost Pep Biel due to injury. Did they really need to lose Wilfried Zaha as well? No, of course not. They didn't need to, but he made a choice. And I guess the question is, when do we get the Snapchat apology?
Yeah, I saw some people saying that on social media. This is a good point, though, by Jazz. He said he swung at his head in front of Penso. Contact doesn't matter, all about the intention. That's a good point, right?
Sure.
Even if he doesn't make contact with Jesus, it's still the intention to go and make the effort at a player's head. And so even if he doesn't make that much contact, yeah, I think Jazz has a point that because he does it in front of the referee, because he makes a swipe for his head, I think that's enough to warrant a second yellow card.
Well, the thing is, Todd, and I've known this from a very young age, high school, maybe even middle school, where they teach you right away, it's never the aggressor, but rather the reaction that gets the referee's attention, right? The way that you react, the way that you retaliate is typically the way that the card goes, right? There's been so many instances where I've played soccer, maybe you've played soccer too, where this happens, where someone may have been an aggressor against you, or you've been the aggressor, but the way that the other player reacts is ultimately the way that the referee will go about it, because they more likely than not don't see the initial foul. They just see what happens afterwards. So again, this is a player with an unbelievable amount of experience. He is 30 years old, I believe. Is he 30? 30 something. I don't want to say that's up there, but he's 32.
Yeah.
Unbelievable amount of experience in the Premier League, internationally with his national team, etc. I think pretty sure. Yeah. Either way, experience just oozes off of him. And people, meaning the fan base of Charlotte and even some talking heads sort of defending it, saying, well, the coach should have pulled him out. At what point do you not use the coach excuse for him, right? He's a 32-year-old man who has this much experience and has won as much as he has in terms of matches, etc. Just such a damn shame that it came down to this, because listen, I like Matt Swift. I like David Gussler, but our friends over in the Charlotte content creation scene /podcaster /reporting, that it's just such a shame. Okay, well, there you go. There's another one. It's such a shame that it came down to that, right? Because that team is good. It's very good. And unfortunately they're already hobbled, and even worse, in an unforced error by a grown man. Just temper, just What's the phrase? Mark used it in his podcast at one time. Crashes out. He crashes out at the wrong moment. That's for sure.
Yeah, and I mean, Jazz mentions it here. Says Wilf has always been a hothead, and I think that part of it is why we never saw him leave Crystal Palace to go to a bigger club. I mean, he would be linked to clubs in the top 6, and moves never materialize. And yeah, I do realize that he was at Manchester United at one point, but spent a lot of time out on loan away, going to Crystal Palace and Cardiff City, and could never break into the United's first team, and eventually gets sold by Crystal Palace to Galatasaray, leaves Galatasaray on loan to Lyon last season. Now this season on loan with Charlotte, 10 goals, 5 assists, and 31 appearances for Wilfried Zaha. But you got a player that you're paying $2.7 million to, Jose, your top DP, I would say. And now he misses a vital first game against New York City, a home game. And he might miss the only home game that Charlotte has, because who's to say that New York City don't go down to Bank of America Stadium and get a win? And don't forget, the game can be level. The game goes to penalties, and who's to say New York City don't win that? We know how vital Matt Freese has been for New York City in penalty kicks, and then New York City goes away to Yankee Stadium or Citi Field, and who's to say New York City don't win that game? And now Zaha doesn't play a home game in the playoffs for Charlotte when they need him. And yes, he's been a big player, a big part of their success this season. But yeah, he's a player that's been around, and he's got to control his emotions there. And unfortunately for Charlotte fans, unable to control his emotions, it's a big loss for them in their first playoff game against New York City. But that's for Charlotte fans to worry about, and not so much Union fans.
The only thing I'll say is, and I've been following the beef between, I guess, done more research. I obviously don't follow I follow the Premier League. I don't follow it as close as I do the Union and MLS, but I've heard about the beef between Zaha and Mateta out in Crystal Palace. And if you're a New York City FC supporter, or you just want to do a little bit of what's the term, shithousery, if there's not a fan in that crowd, either in Charlotte for the first game, just because he's going to see it some way, shape, or form in the stands. I'm sure he's allowed to come and watch, or certainly in New York City when they have to go out there. If there's not a Christian Mateta head floating around the stands with the fans and just calling Zaha's attention to it, that is such a missed opportunity, because I can tell you right now, he would once again crash out over that easily. And that's, I think that's just so indicative of the type of, I don't want to say player, I don't want to say person, but just how easily it is to get this guy going on that type of shit, is that, we're coming up with dumb reasons that he would try to just lose his mind, like it's just so, it's so sad. It is what it is. So much talent. It's a bummer more than anything.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I've had it down there on the sidebar for a little bit now. Missed calls dictate the game, according to Bradley Carnell. So before we get into that or more topics about that, I do want to play Bradley Carnell's opening statement. I did ask him a follow-up question if he got clarity on the first goal that he believes shouldn't have been given to Charlotte. He believes that the ball went out of bounds, but this is Bradley Carnell on last night's referee performance without actually mentioning the referees, smartly avoiding a fine.
From a ball that, is it out? Was it not? I mean, I clearly see it out of bounds. I'm not sure what somebody else sees. And then you get caught chasing the game a little bit. You get chasing, and then there's decisions. I thought there should have been a red card very early on for Zaha. And then, we don't react on those. And then it just escalates, right? I mean, we play a certain way. There's all the time stoppages, the time wastages from the goalkeeper, Kalina, on goal kicks. We at 0-0, we get blown the whistle. with Andre to hurry up the play. We already getting blown the whistle. For them, it just takes 5, 6, 8 moments before they blow the whistle. And at what moment is there a consequence? Because if you don't act on those moments, then all of a sudden it escalates like it did. And, just unfortunate for the way things ended. So, we'll just have to make sure we control our emotions and make sure that this is who we are. So we embrace this. We train like this every single day. So, I feel we're primed for these. Sometimes I feel that, other people are not.
Oh, man, Bradley Carnell, I mean, definitely walking a fine line, I would say, with not mentioning the referees, making sure he doesn't get fined, but he's definitely having a go at the referee. And there was also a moment in the second half when Indiana Vasilev thought he won a corner kick again off of Tim Ream, and you see him look to Torrey Penso and was like, just yapping back, like, are you serious? You are so bad, so bad. I was like, Indy, you're gonna walk yourself into a yellow card here with just how poorly this game, I think, was going officiating wise in the second half. The Union get 4 yellow cards compared to Charlotte's 1 yellow card. Eventually turns to a double yellow, like we mentioned to Wilfred Zaha. But I did the math so you guys didn't have to do it. 82 stoppages last night in this game. So 18 fouls called, 16 corners, 2 offsides, 46 throw-ins. Like I had mentioned, 4-1, the Union led in yellow cards. But look, the Union are a team that want to rough you up. They're a team that want to bring the physicality. So I'm not saying that, the throw-ins, the amount of fouls, I think 16 fouls isn't, or 18 fouls, sorry, I feel like isn't a lot of fouls called in this game, but I think Carnell's biggest issue there was just Kalina time wasting. And this is something I didn't see during the broadcast. Maybe if you're there in the stadium, you can see Andre Blake getting the warning, but they didn't show, or at least I didn't notice it in the Apple broadcast. I don't recall Denny Higginbottom or, Steve Kengelosi. That's right, Steve, right? I don't recall either one of those guys mentioning that Andre Blake got warned. So, yeah, I mean, I think that's probably Bradley Carnell's biggest gripe there is Kalina's time wasting, and Andre Blake, they're already blowing the whistle when the game's tied 0-0. So, I thought it was interesting hearing Bradley Carnell saying that, he believes that first goal shouldn't have counted. He believes that the ball went out of bounds. That's why you see Kai Wagner and Makanya called out of position. But that's why you're also taught at a young age to play until the whistle is blown, right, Jose?
That's just it, right? I even said it to some of my teammates last week and in adult soccer. It's like, just play till the referee blows the whistle. And it's sort of remains new to people, and I certainly have to remind myself as well. Not much else to add, I think it's lazy to blame the referee, but I think watching this game, it was one of those, this one's going to be a rough one just based on, the back and forth and the shoving, the pushing, et cetera. And again, it's the Philadelphia Union way, right? Where the tip of the spear is usually the first line of defense for them. And that usually yields to more fouls than usual, right? And both ways, earning them. And, you think about Damiani, the way he holds the ball, and also giving them out the way that, Ua sometimes lunges into balls or players, tactical fouls, I guess is probably the better term. So not much to add. I'm glad that no Union player is going to be missing the next match due to yellow card accumulation or an unbelievably silly red card on a game that really, I hate to say didn't mean anything, but certainly did not move seeding or anything like that. It just sort of dealt a weird momentum going into the playoffs.
I agree. We've talked about it a little bit. We don't have to spend too much more time talking about it, Jose, but you heard Bradley Carnell say in the first clip I played that there's positives to take from the second half. The Union outshoot Charlotte 16-3, 3 shots on target for the Union compared to Charlotte's 2. Jazz mentioned it here that Kalina was a wall, made 5 saves on the night. Big performance by the Charlotte goalkeeper, who's getting back to his best in goal. We've seen it a couple seasons ago where literally just playing on the top of his head for Charlotte, keeping them in games. And we've seen it over the years with Andre Blake, right? We mentioned it so many times on the show, Jose. How many times did Jim Curtin talked about the amount of points that Andre Blake saved or won for the Union on his own. And I think part of that could be said about Kalina too, with Charlotte. I mean, he's been an unbelievable goalkeeper, makes 5 saves last night for Charlotte. But at the same time, right, Charlotte's up 2-0 at the half, and they can afford to sit deep and now hit on the counterattack. And so that's, of course, going to force the Union to have more opportunities in the second half. But yeah, they probably should have scored at least one chance in the first half with Alejandro Bedoya. But you look at the chances by Ty Baribo in the second half, good crosses by Kai Wagner. I'm not a huge XG guy, but if you look at it alone, the Union's was 1.3 compared to Charlotte's 0.3 in the second half. The Union for sure should have had a goal in the second half, unable to. And overall, I mean, XG would say that they believe that the Union should have won this game. 23 shots compared to Charlotte's 8. Union missed those 2 big chances with Bedoya, but positives to take away. Like I mentioned, Indiana Vassila brings a new energy to this team. Baribo comes off the bench, has 1 or 2 pretty decent chances in the second half, and good to see the Kai Wagner, Ty Baribo connection. Like you mentioned, no injuries, no red cards for any player on the Union. So that's a positive in itself as well.
Yeah, it's one of those games where, again, you're just happy that everybody left healthy. You're happy that everybody is available for the next match, but you're sort of bummed that the Union couldn't find a way to at least score a goal, right? Keep you at work for sure, Todd, with some sort of breakdown. But like as good friend of the show, Mark mentioned, right? Try to keep these guys not rusty and get them back into the momentum and game day fitness, I guess, for the guys who were not away with international duty. And a goal would have done a lot of good, even if it was a 2-1. Unfortunately, they couldn't finish it despite the just absolute incredible second half that they displayed, and Kalina sort of playing the way that George Marks did that one game for them before being released. So yeah, I wonder what the preparation looks like for the next match, because I think I'm just ready to forget about this one. There's not much else to take out of this. I know Bradley will say that there is, but the reality is that they lost the match. They came back home healthy, and that's probably the best part of it all. Healthy and everybody eligible.
Agreed. So final topic before we get into Blunder of the Week. Pretty good debate. I think we could have, Jose, who would you rather face in the playoffs in the first game, Chicago Fire or Orlando City? That game takes place on Wednesday at 8:30 p.m. What a late kickoff, by the way. 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I mean, couldn't have made it 7:30 between these two teams. So, yeah, let's hope for extra time penalty kicks between these two teams. And like we mentioned, the Union face off on the 29th, sorry, not 29th, Jesus. What's the date? 26th. Thank you. Sunday at 5:30 p.m. at Subaru Park. But I think I know where you're going with this, Jose, because we talked about it. Maybe I convinced you otherwise last night. You guys in the comment section, whether it be on Twitter or on YouTube, let us know who you would rather see the Union face out of Chicago or Orlando City. Jose, I'll go to you because I think I know your answer, but maybe it changed. Maybe I convinced you otherwise last night.
I maybe still stick with it. I think Orlando City is the team I would. If I'm Bradley, Carnell and company, I'm probably hoping that Orlando City pulls through over Chicago, just because they're coming off of a weird stretch of games here, right? In terms of having but they drew against Cincy, they drew against Columbus. Cincy draw, very strong draw, actually, of all things combined. But losing to Vancouver, losing to Toronto, Orlando's coming into the playoffs with not great memento, right? And that Toronto loss was just really, really bad. That 4-2 loss is pretty bad, though Toronto sort of re-equip here with obviously a mid-season acquisition via cash trade. But I would be lying if I told you that Martin Ojeda doesn't scare the hell out of me, right? Just a guy who's had just in MLS alone 27 goal contributions in one season, and also the surrounding cast with Atuesta and Angulo and Pasalic. Is that how you say his name? Pasalic. Just again, a really, really good team. But then you also look at Chicago, and Chicago, certainly why I wouldn't want them is just better form going into this, right? Beating Miami 3-5. The week before that, they beat Columbus, and then 2 draws against not great teams. But nonetheless, you have Bamba, Kuipers, Gutman's been playing really well this year as well. Just, I don't think that there's a right answer, but I would lean towards wanting to play Orlando, and sort of the logistics of going to Orlando versus Chicago might be a little bit easier.
Yeah, I agree. For me, it's Orlando City is the team that I want to face. Looking at their last 8 games, it's a loss against Toronto, Mihailovic. Big game last night for Toronto FC. You lose 1-2 at home against Vancouver, draw against Columbus, draw against Cincinnati. So 4-game winless run for Orlando City coming into the playoffs. The last win came against Nashville 3-2 at Exploria Stadium on the 20th of September. But then a 1-1 draw away to DC United. And then they lose 5-1 away at Nashville. And then it's back-to-back wins against Sporting Kansas City and into Miami. I do know that Orlando City went all the way to the 3rd place match in the League's Cup, eventually falling to LA Galaxy 1-2. And this is also something you and I talked about this morning, maybe. Looking at the teams that went farthest in League's Cup compared to what they did the remaining end of the season, did teams' League's Cup run play a factor into them finishing poorly in the regular season? Orlando City would say yes, absolutely, with them winless in the last 4 games. Chicago Fire, you mentioned it. The last 5 games, haven't lost a single game. Draw against New England, draw against Toronto, win against Inter Miami, which helped the Union clinch the Supporters Shield. They beat Columbus at home 2-0, and then they beat Minnesota United away. So haven't lost in 5 straight games, Chicago Fire. And they're one of the best teams on the road in MLS. 3rd most wins in the league overall, 2nd most in their Eastern Conference with a 9-6-2 record on the road compared to Orlando City's, which isn't bad, 6-4-7. But yeah, Chicago, for whatever reason, just seems to play much better on the road under Greg Berhalter compared to whether it be SeatGeek Arena or Soldier Field. They prefer, it seems, to be on the road. I do know the Union beat Chicago a couple weeks ago, or a couple months ago, 4-0 at Subaru Park, which was a little bit of a shocker in my opinion, knowing that Chicago's been one of the best teams on the road. You go all the way at the beginning of the season, a 0-0 draw against Orlando City. And so, yeah, right away you would say, well, because the Union defeated Chicago 4-0 back in, August, I believe it was. Yeah, why not?
It was early on.
Why not pick Chicago? But yeah, I think it's got to be Orlando City with the run that they're on. I believe Janssen is out, not going to play this game. Mark Kelkenberg mentions Orlando without Gerbert now, their defensive midfielder from Clemson. And yeah, I still think Pasalic, I think Duncan Maguire, Luis Muriel, Martin Ojeda, great attackers, just like you mentioned, the attackers for Chicago with Bamba, with Zinko-Knuckle, with Kuipers. It's an impressive front 3 for Chicago as well. But I think this is the right side of the bracket if you're the Union. Sorry, people, if you're watching the live stream, this is hard to see. The winner of the Chicago-Orlando game will go and face the Union. The winner of that match will play either Charlotte or New York City. So the Union avoid Cincinnati and Miami until an Eastern Conference final, which is exactly what you want to see for the Union. You want to see them miss one of those games. Yes, I know Chicago. I know New York City and Charlotte. It's going to be a very, very defensive matchup. But again, you would feel better with Nashville and Miami beating up on each other, which is crazy that we could potentially see those teams play 4 times in a row. Kind of reminds me of 2020 when the Union and New England played 7 times, and the Union had 19 days off, 21 days off until they played their playoff match against New England and finally lose a game that season to New England. Go figure, it be in the very first playoff game. And so who knows what could happen in that Nashville-Miami game. I don't think that we'll see a 5-2 performance like we did in last night's game between these two teams. Columbus and Cincinnati, I mean, potential to see 3 hell is real games. those guys are going to give everything and beat up on each other. So yeah, looking at this from a Union perspective, this is exactly how you would have wanted the bracket to play out. And I think if I'm Bradley Carnell, if I'm those players, I would rather it be Orlando City. A lot of mixed opinions from people. Some people saying Orlando, some people saying Chicago. Again, people that are listening to this live, let us know in the chat who you would rather see face the Union, Chicago, or Orlando City. You guys listening back on the RSS feed, comment back who you would rather see as well. Appreciate reading those comments, even though you guys aren't listening to the podcast live. But yeah, regardless, I mean, and see the Union in the playoffs again. We mentioned that game, first game for the Union, October 26th, Sunday at 5:30 at Subaru Park. The game's also going to be on Fox Sports 1. So only the second time this season, Jose, that the Union have been on Fox Sports. You got to go all the way back to the DC United game, I believe it was. Maybe it wasn't DC United. It wasn't DC United. I thought Nashville, right? It was Nashville.
Was it Nashville? Was that the one? Yeah, that's when I was
at
flying.
Subaru Park, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, that was a day game because I remember flying and my flight was delayed, and I remember watching Quinn miss the PK.
Yeah,
I think that was
it was Nashville. Yep.
Yes, and that's where we had Glesnes give up a penalty because he challenged the ball in the air for a header, and somehow that was a penalty kick. So I'm actually kind of excited for a 5:00 start on a Sunday. I wish it was a 5:00 start on a Saturday instead of a Sunday, selfishly. But I don't know, man. I'm genuinely excited for the playoffs. You take the Union piece aside of what we do in terms of covering, etc. But this bracket, if you can just pull it up one more time, sorry to get you here. This is just so much fun to watch. Even if you're a neutral for a lot of these matchups, to watch Cincinnati and Columbus battle each other for at the very least 2 matches. Never mind. On the West, you get to see Portland and Real Salt Lake sort of battle it out this Wednesday, and then potentially a rematch where Portland just lost to San Diego 4-0. That's fun. And then ultimately, their conference semifinals could be LAFC versus Vancouver, which you would argue that's entirely too early because that likely should have been a conference final, which San Diego would want to say something about that considering the year that they've had. And then you have dark horses all throughout. Minnesota, I don't think anybody wants to play against Minnesota in a best of 3, so Seattle, good luck. And nobody wants to go to Seattle because Lumen Field is crazy even on a regular match day. I've been there in person and I've experienced it. It's bananas. So there's just, I know I clown on this format. I know you've had your thoughts on this format, especially this best of 3 start, but it is certainly, there's a feeling that it's dragged out. There's a feeling that it gets stale. Matches don't matter, right? Like if you're losing 4-0 at half, what's the point, right? It counts as a single victory, not an aggregate score, pool players. But there's something to be said about getting to watch this much soccer. The players will say differently. The coaches would say differently as well. The athletic trainers will certainly have a different opinion about all of the soccer, especially when you have turf involved and cold weather. But for the fans, for us in the media, it's just so much fun to watch. And I'm intrigued to see what happens with my MLS coverage. I haven't gotten any assignments yet that, the playoffs are out. But nonetheless, it seems like this is going to be a really, really fun stretch because it's like a month and a half of playoffs worth of soccer, even with the breaks in between. It's just a lot to watch. So I'm very excited about how interesting this is all going to get.
Yeah,
that's me hyping up the format.
Yeah, I appreciate it, and I think Apple will be sending you a check in the mail here soon, Jose, because we all know Apple wanted more playoffs. They wanted more playoff games, and so you had just got yourself a new iMac, and so we'll see. Maybe Apple can send you a newer iMac than the one that you just got. They're
unlikely. Unlikely.
Want an iPhone? Seems like everybody has iPhones now. I didn't think that I would eventually join the dark side, but I did. I did get an iPhone. I want a MacBook, Apple Watch. I mean, I'm all kitted out for Apple. I mean, I guess that's what happens. Todd. Yeah, I guess that's what happens when the league so invested with Apple. It's like, God, you see it everywhere. And so it's like, well, might as well finally jump on board. And yeah, I mean, getting this MacBook has been phenomenal. I mean, it's made life so much easier doing the podcast and clipping and everything. So no regards there. The iPhone's been fine and everything. So look, this is me, Apple, speaking to you. Send me some free stuff. If Jose won't take it, I will certainly take it. So if you need me to read something on the podcast, I will plug away. I mean, we saw how nice the iPhone 17 looked during a playoff game, I think it was. Was it a regular season game? I can't remember. On Apple, when they were showing the game, recorded on the iPhone 17. Look,
yeah, baseball.
If the quality is that good for MLB, I'll take a brand new iPhone 17 Pro Max. Like, come on, Apple, send it my way. But enough simping for Apple here. Blunder of the week, man. So coming into this, I was very, very certain what I knew Blunder of the week was going to be. I share my opinion on it. A lot of people share their opinion on it. There's a very, very nice article written by Laurel from Queen City Press. Is that her outlet? I can't remember. Queen City Press?
Yes.
She writes a very nice letter talking about how coverage in MLS is lacking, how some teams are better than others. And this all stemmed because MLS last week tested AI for match recap articles. I'll be honest. I knew MLS does the match reactions, which you and a whole bunch of other people write, Jose. You guys do phenomenal work. I did not know that MLS still writes match recap articles until this was brought to my attention that, hey, look, MLS is trying AI for this. A lot of mistakes in the AI, a lot of humanless emotion. I get everybody be upset about this. I was upset about this because this is taking away potential writers that are looking for a job to write. And now you're being replaced by AI. And that's the world we live in now, right? Is you can't hide from it. AI is here and you got to learn how to adapt to it, embrace to it. And there are certain things I think AI should be doing, certain things that it shouldn't. Writing is one of those I don't think AI should be doing. So I was very convinced that Blunder of the Week should go to MLS for testing out AI. But then in last night's Colorado Rapids LAFC game, this really, really bothered me. Chris Armas, the head coach for Colorado Rapids, gave a totally unprofessional response to Matt Pollard, the Burgundy wave. And I'll have a lot more to share about the Burgundy wave and Matt Pollard. But it was a simple question asked to Chris Armas about his future at the club. And the way that Chris responds to this is just totally unprofessional. And so for you guys who haven't seen this response in the question on social media in last night's press conference after Colorado Rapids drew against LAFC, probably should have won this game. They gave up a late game tying goal. Now they missed the playoffs because of it. Chris Armas upset, as he should be. But that's still no excuse for this response that he gave to Matt Pollard.
Chris, now with the season over and the team not making the playoffs, you've been generally positive.
No, we didn't make the playoffs.
The Colorado Rapids missed the playoffs, yes.
Yeah, thank you. Always good you remind me of this stuff. Yeah, good. Yeah, what you got?
With the season ending and now knowing the conclusion of that, where do you think this leaves in terms of your tenure with the club and possibly coming back? Thank you.
Well, I'm not sure what you're going to put out there, Matt, because it's always from you guys and what your outlet. It's always negative. It's always poking holes in the team. It's attacking the coaching. I'm not sure where you're going to go with what you do. You do what you do, and not sure many people read it, but I don't appreciate all the negativity you've given us over the months and even, quite honestly, the few years. So have fun with this one that we didn't make the playoffs. But, yeah, my future with the team, listen, it's fresh, just ended. We'll have discussions with leadership and continue some discussions. That's all I can say for now.
Just totally uncalled for. So totally uncalled for from Chris Armas, whose contract's up after the end of the season. And so because of that, I mean, nobody can debate, right? That is a great contender for Blunder of the Week.
Yeah, not good.
No, not good at all. And where to start? Burgundy Wave, Matt Pollard. Look, I went out to Colorado 2 years ago. If I'm not mistaken, Jose, you've also been to Dick's Sporting Goods Park. You went for a Leagues Cup game, I believe it was. I went for an MLS game between Colorado and the Philadelphia Union. And that press box was dead. One of the deadest I have been around in MLS. I know deadest isn't a word. But to go after Matt Pollard, Burgundy Wave, the most consistent coverage of the Colorado Rapids for years and years and years. To go after him for a simple question, a real good, honest question to ask, and to flip out on him like that and say, "Oh no, you give bad coverage. You're always bashing the team. You're bashing me. Blah 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 blah." Well, look, I saw this before we came on the podcast, Jose, before we went live. Somebody had shared this article from September 12th from Matt Pollard. Says, Chris Armas has been a shining example of how to coach the Rapids from a human perspective. He has been a great person to interview and get to know throughout the season and continues to be a great person. Posted on September 12th, 2025. What about that is negative, Jose? What about that is negative? Nothing.
The fact that, wait, can you pull that up again? The fact that they use great persons twice in the same sentence.
Yeah.
I'm being a total dork, but no, I listen, go on. I have thoughts about this. Just let it all out.
Look, there's people I know in the Rapids organization that I want to do well. I want to succeed. I like their jerseys. I like Dick's Sporting Goods Park.
Sure.
But there are some people in the organization that I think are long overdue that shouldn't have jobs anymore in that organization. I think Chris Armas just lucks into jobs. I don't think he should have a head coaching job in MLS, go back to being an assistant coach, whatever it may be. I saw there was people on social media talking about, oh, well, he used to be an assistant coach at Manchester United. So yeah, that means it's going to be a great fit in MLS. No, not at all, man. I mean, being an assistant coach under Ralph Ragnick, I believe Manchester United are still in the dark days. He lucked into that assistant spot at Manchester United because Ragnick being involved with the Red Bull system, with Armas being involved in the Red Bull system. And what has he done? What has he done that's been positive for Colorado Rapids? They make the playoffs last year, but then they absolutely implode in the second half of the season and miss the playoffs. And so the only journalist, the only outlet that is consistent, that isn't counting the Denver Post, you have those comments to say to Matt Pollard. If I was the Colorado organization, I would be reaching out, and maybe they have. I would be reaching out to Matt Pollard. I would be reaching out to Burgundy Wave and offering an apology. Because an organization that gets barely any media coverage, let alone your big outlets. I mean, you have the Denver Post, but that's it. Nobody else in that town. The radio host, which, look, we know the fight in Philadelphia. We want the radio people talking more about the Union when they do those stupid Twitter polls. They never list the Union as an option. People want them to talk about them on the radio. The Union have a partnership with 97.5, but they refuse to talk about them on the radio. So we get that fight of having the local stations, whether it be the news or the radio, wanting them to cover the team. They do not get that in Colorado. And so the only outlet that you get, everybody that's doing this as a second job, freelance, and you treat your most consistent outlet, your most consistent beat reporter this way, just totally unexcusable. That's everything I have, Jose.
Yeah, you know, I often, and I think you appreciate this about me, Todd, or at least you've led on to tell me as much, is that I always try to see both sides of the equation here, right? In terms of where's Chris coming from, Matt's perspective, and maybe even a third perspective, us as bystanders, just literally watching it, right? I get that it was an emotional night for Chris. I get that it was honestly probably I think it was a perfectly fine question, even the way it was worded to Chris on, what does your future look like? Obviously, you haven't made the playoffs, etc. It was totally fair, and we can talk about fair questions as of late that coaches have gotten that have maybe responded better to that type of thing. But I continue to lean towards the side of it's a little rich for the leader or one of the leaders of this organization that has been sort of how long what year did Chris start with the Rapids? Was it 2023 or was it 2024?
Last year, 2024.
Okay, they made the playoffs last year, 50 points, 7th place, right? Now we're also talking about a playoff format that just probably allows way too many teams. As you've signaled, Todd, you feel about the playoff format?
23, sorry.
Go ahead.
23.
23. Okay, even better, more. So in 23, they finished 14th place with 27 points. Last year, they finished 7th place with 50 points. And this year, they finished 11th place with 41 points. Not a team that has been consistently great. Chris's point of, your coverage has been negative. Your coverage has been poking holes. It's just, it's like Swiss cheese, brother. Like, you haven't been good, right? There's plenty to comment on because you aren't good and you haven't made the playoffs in a playoff system that allows, what is it, Todd? 66% of the league to make it? Is that what you said it is? Yeah. 66% of the league to make it. It's you have Rafael Navarro, you have the Bassett brothers, you have an Aronson there too, Reggie Cannon, some good pieces there. Yappy, I think that's how you say his name too. This is not a. This is a coaching thing, Chris. This is a you thing. Are the players buying into your system anymore? What are you doing with Keegan Rosenberry, who you named your captain last year and made a whole video about, right? He's just rotting on the bench, being a different type of player, and that's fine. He might just be taking up a Bedoya role, and that's okay. But the holes are there to be poked, as Valerie says in the chat. So for him to react this way is a little rich for a team that plays third fiddle to the Broncos, and even how shitty the Colorado Rockies are. The Rapids play third fiddle to the fan bases out there in the city.
Don't forget about the Avs and the Nuggets.
Okay, even worse. Sorry, I forgot about NBA and certainly NHL because I don't pay attention to NHL, and it's been a long time since I've really cared about NBA. So yeah, they're very much in a situation like Philadelphia where, they're the 5th team in the entire city, and look how packed and how rich our press box is for the Union, right? It's so cool to see that there's so much attention given to the team. And granted, it's been an incredible, at this point, 7 years of Philadelphia Union coverage that, good teams minus a little blip last year, but ultimately a good team altogether to cover. But for Chris to act that way is just so weird. And I know that there's people defending him, and that's fine. I think that's where reasonable minds can differ, and that's okay. But I guess I'm jumping on ESPN on Tuesday to talk about it with Glenn Davis at 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock in the afternoon on Tuesday. So be tuned for that. We'll see what that's all about. I don't know that it has to be to the extent of an apology. And I say this as someone, Todd, and you know this, and I know friends in the chat know this. I've had coaches come up to me and tell me that they don't like my coverage. I've had head coaches come up and tell me that they don't appreciate the way that I write about certain things. But they don't do it in front of a live camera and a live microphone. They've pulled me aside to have these conversations. They've done it in, I won't even say secrecy, I think just decency. to not try to embarrass me in front of my peers, to not, and embarrass is not even the right word. I know I'm going off here, but like they haven't done it in such a way that it just looks so poor for them and puts Matt in such a weird situation. Because I guarantee you that even though Matt, I feel, is on the right on this, did not want any of this attention for this. I bet you he wishes that all the attention he's getting today is not for Chris's response to his question, but rather the article he put out today, or the preview that the Burgundy Wave put out 2 days ago for this match, or what's going to come forward here with player and roster decisions. Unfortunately, all the attention's going to this idiotic answer from this guy who is emotional after a match. It's just so frustrating to me. You know, it's a guy who, yeah, he might be making money from the Patreon, but the reality is he's probably spending far more money doing it than he is making it. So I don't know, man. I think we talk about how this league sometimes feels like it's too big for its own underwear. And I think this is a perfect example of, you know, this is a reminder that the league still needs to resettle. And I'm all for coaches and people challenging me, challenging you, challenging us as press. That's healthy. Just do it in a healthy way, not in the middle of a press conference with a hot mic. That's where I end on that.
Yeah, I agree with you. And one other thing that I was reminded of is in 2026, Denver finally gets their NWSL team, Denver Summit. And I guarantee you they're start to get more fans at their stadium than Colorado Rapids will. I mean, it's an organization that I feel like's been in turmoil for years and years and years, doesn't really have an idea which way they want to go. And then you go out here and you bash. Your leader of the club, Chris Armas, bashes your only local independent coverage that you've had consistently over the years. And again, you and I know this. I mean, people in the chat know this. Majority of people, not only in Philadelphia Union's press box, but all over MLS, a lot of people are doing this as a hobby, as a second job, and there's no money to be made to support a family. Whatever money people get it covers the expenses of travel, of hosting a podcast, hosting a website, whatever the case may be. And then whatever you make from that, a couple $100, maybe $1,000 or so, then you can put in your pocket. It's not much. And so people that are covering these teams, this league, are doing it out of the love and the enjoyment of the game, wanting to grow MLS, wanting to grow the league. And so some of these PR teams, I think they're completely out of line. Some of these head coaches are completely out of line with how they treat the media. And like you said, Jose, to especially go on a hot mic and to do it like Chris Armas did. Because last night, I don't know, and this is the last thing I'll say about this, but last night in the press conference with Bradley Carnell, in his opening statement, I know I played about a minute clip. Before he said all that, he thanked all the coverage, all the media that has been there throughout the regular season, telling the stories, showing up week in, week out, asking him questions, whether it be at practice, after games, away games, what have you. He was appreciative of the media telling these stories. Why can't more coaches take a page out of Bradley Carnell's book? And if I'm not mistaken, Chris and Bradley Carnell were at Red Bulls at the same time, right? So Bradley Carnell learns one thing at the Red Bulls and Chris Armas learns something completely different. It's like, show some respect. And that's not what Chris Armas did last night after Colorado Rapids once again miss the playoffs. But that's pretty much it for tonight's show. Now we're 33 in. I told you guys, jam-packed show. Lots to talk about with Jose tonight. All you guys that have tuned in, I appreciate you guys. You guys have been wonderful. Questions, lots of great comments. And you guys, I'll tell you guys this every single week. You guys are what makes this show, which, before we go ahead and plug away, I do want to make one comment. I was like, do I want to do this at the beginning of the show? Do I want to do this at the end of the show? Well, because we always have more people listening towards the end than we do when we first start doing the podcast, we saved it till the end. And Chris Armas, maybe he wants to know what our numbers look like with articles that we write, Jose, with listeners on the podcast. If that's something he's curious about, like he was with the Burgundy Wave, I'll go ahead and share that information since he seems to be a numbers guy. But you guys have seen Jose and I work with each other a lot over the months, especially in the off season. Every single week we were giving you guys content. Jose and I definitely are going to be collaborating a lot more in the future. We're definitely going to be making our coverage into what you guys expect. And so if you guys have been around since the OG days of the podcast, way back when I was covering the Premier League, the Champions League, I was doing that show with another co-host. Lasted about a year and a half, whatever the case may be. And then I had been doing the show ever since on my own with no official co-host. Well, you guys have been so kind in your comments to Jose and I. Anytime Jose's appeared onto the show, I've thoroughly enjoyed having Jose on the show. So yeah, Jose joining on board as an official co-host of the Free Kick Podcast. Finally, a 2-man operation here. We'll be collaborating on other projects and everything. So super excited to be working more hand in hand with Jose, officially having him come on board to be a part of the Free Kick Podcast. And yeah, I mean, you guys are going to continue to get the same coverage that you got from us on the podcast. We'll see in terms of articles and whatnot that come out. I know Jose is going to be sharing goals breakdown videos, the podcast, what have you, on his Substack. A lot of you guys subscribe to him over there, which I know he's very, very grateful for. But yeah, it's great to finally have another official co-host and somebody that I know that's as passionate about soccer in America, growing the sport in America, passionate about giving the Philadelphia Union the coverage that they deserve. So yeah, really, really excited to have Jose join on board. And yeah, you guys are going to continue to have the fantastic coverage that we've given you guys since we've been co-hosting with each other. And now I guess it's official. Not that you guys didn't have any idea before, because I'm sure you guys did. But yeah, super excited to work more closely with Jose.
Yeah, and honestly, I don't think that anything's really going to change. I still remain, close with and continue to collaborate on pre and post match shows with Mike, because I love working with Mike. He's the one who brought me into this world, him and Dave. We'll continue to do that. I think that's where my love and I continue to work with AAT Sports will remain. They've given me awesome opportunities, and I'm certainly on board for that. And Mike does a great job in writing and presenting and hosting, so that will continue. I think where this is going to be great is where it's. I think more often than not, this is probably fair to share, Todd. More often than not, you're texting him. He's like, "Hey, you want to hop on, or are you busy with your family?" It's like, well, I wish I would have known earlier. Well, now I know earlier, right? For future ones, we're like, hey, and Todd can still carry the show on his own if I'm not available. Or we have a slew of friends that you all know that are going to hop on and be part of this. It'll just be more than likely a third chair that joins as we carry out the show. Or frankly, if 3 is too many, 2 is certainly the right amount for company. So I'm excited. I'm excited to get more involved. I think my life is slowing down a little bit now that some of my fall travel is done and I'm going into the winter here and remaining at home. So find myself with maybe a little bit more time to do this later in the evening. So, and again, I don't really know that anything changes because we did so much in the off season and certainly have done so much together with AAT Sports and certainly with you, the one team we agree on, et cetera. We've just been social butterflies. So for this, it's more kind of like, okay, like the expectation is that I'll be on. If I'm not, it'll feel like a little rare, if that makes sense, more than just a treat that people get from time to time.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty fair way to go ahead and explain it. So now we're 38 minutes into the podcast. You guys know what to expect with Jose and I, but good. I mean, people aren't following you on Jose. Where can people follow you on social media?
At Jose R. Nuñez 91. You can find me there. My Substack's linked on the header, and just I'll plug away while I have the microphone right now. I just put out a piece or a match reaction written by a human on MLSsoccer.com for San Diego taking really giving it to Portland for 4-0 defeat and them clinching the top of the West and a record-setting expansion team season. But certainly trying to pull a little bit of my weight here in terms of maybe getting some last minute chats with folks ahead of the playoffs, and certainly going to do a last check-in with some people ahead of USL playoffs, which are coming thick and fast too. So exciting time to be a soccer fan in the United States. That's for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you guys aren't following the podcast on Twitter, Instagram, or Facebook, follow at Free Kick Pod, wherever you get your podcast, The Free Kick. Make sure you check out the podcast, wherever you get your podcast, The Free Kick, live on YouTube, every single podcast, youtube.com/Free Kick Pod. We can also find the goals breakdown video. Expect the latest goals breakdown video to be out either late Monday night or first thing Tuesday morning. And check out the Substack for my writing, goals breakdown video, or podcast all in one place, thefreekick.substack.com. Jose and I will try to have a match preview episode out, aiming for Thursday. So hopefully we can get that finalized and everything. And hopefully give you guys a preview game coming in for the first game on Sunday. I just added this QR code. I don't know if people can go ahead and link that and whatnot, but if you take a picture of that should link to Jose's article on MLS his website. Talking
what
about
is technology you're pulling out? Holy shit.
The San Diego game. I don't know. It's something that StreamYard just added. So hopefully if you guys take a picture of that, it should take you to Jose's article on MLS.com. But yeah, all you guys that have joined in, hour 40 minutes in, we appreciate the interaction. We appreciate you guys. And like I said, hopefully we have an episode out for you guys on Thursday. Record it with a guest that was probably our most recent guest. So hopefully we can go ahead and get that all finalized on Thursday, talking about either Chicago Fire or Orlando City. But until then, my name is Todd, and this is the Free Kick Podcast.